We're back. It's been another episode of Married at First Sight. So here we are, your professional lovers in training. And boy, those couples needed some help tonight.
No joke.
As usual, we don't want to focus on the couples per se, but there were like maybe 2-3 main issues that came out of tonight's episode. And Al and I, Patty, are going to talk about them. Just our perspectives again, from our 26 years of being married, from the perspective of this book, Becoming a Professional Lover, because at least one of them, one issue, is a main issue, which is communication. That was a huge issue with, I'd say, 4 out of the 6 couples.
5 couples.
Oh, is it 5 couples?
Yeah.
Okay. 3
of the 5.
Of the 5 couples.
Definitely.
Yeah. On varying levels. So, who do we start with first? The couple having the most serious problem, Mika and Michael, who had a disagreement on their way to the hotel from the airport last week, which resulted in her accusing him of being different on camera than off camera, which then, a little recap of last week, they were both so uncomfortable that they got separate rooms. He got a separate room. So this week, they're waking up on their honeymoon in separate rooms, separate beds, separate rooms. Awkward when the couples got together to talk, and she comes by herself, and they're like, "Oh, well, where's he?" And
he eventually shows
up. By that time, the couples know that they're not even staying together in the room. And
but let me premise the fact, in communication, there are 2 major elements. And it's not always just the content of what you say, but how you say what you say. And the delivery, in many cases, is more effective and felt than the actual words.
Science has shown that communication is 70 to 75% nonverbal. And that leaves what?
25%.
25 to 30% verbal. Okay, so yes, how you say, what you look like when you say, all of that translates into how you're communicating. So Michael and Mika, of course, because we can't see exactly what went on, how what was said. The bottom line is she got the impression that he's not being authentic. Therefore, she can't trust him.
Right. She can't be vulnerable.
Right.
She can't allow herself to be vulnerable.
Right. Because I already don't know you.
Right.
And so now you've shown me that I can't open up to you.
And on top of her being an alpha male, she has...
An alpha female.
Excuse me. An alpha female.
Alpha female.
I think she has an expectation to some degree. And I'm not saying that it's wrong, but timing also. When you have expectations, you can't have expectations right off the bat from a stranger. Even though, you were put together because of certain traits and attributes that both of you have, and they seem compatible to the experts looking from the outside in. But now the subjects are together and face to face, and it may not always necessarily be as transparent as it potentially could be, because again, you're in self-preservation mode. You know, you're brand spanking new to the situation, and you're not going to allow yourself to be hurt. But you do have to be open and receptive and objective to meeting a new person or getting to know, not just meeting, but getting to know
a new
another
person.
You're right.
Yes, yeah. So needless to say, however he said what he said, she read it a certain way. Mm-hmm. He insists that that's not the way he was intending right. for it to be taken. And since we don't really know, what we can say is, again, and I think we mentioned it last week, men and women process things differently.
Totally.
And there are 2 tips in our book. One says, to love a woman, a man has to accept how she thinks. Conversely, to love a man, a woman has to accept how he thinks. And we're talking in generalities now, okay? So there are exceptions to every rule. But in general, women need conversation. Mm-hmm. Women need detail. Yeah. We saw that tonight. Women want to know all the little ins and outs. And the conversation is how we process, where we are, where we stand, where you are, where you stand. And many times men are not as into the conversation piece as women are.
We're not as descriptive in our communication as women are naturally.
Right. And so, honey, we need to talk is usually code words for, I got to get out of here. That scares me. I don't want to go there. Or this is not going to be good for me. So, I'm going to get accused of something. I'm going to get, so any of those, any of those feelings makes you run.
Yeah.
Right?
Those 5 words, honey, we need to talk. And it can be something that is trivial as, the type of toothpaste we need to buy, but again, men, it's like a scheduled time to talk. That's just not what we do.
Yeah.
Women have to express. That's how they assess. That's how they decision make. We do the same thing. We just do it on a different level.
So bottom line is, when we say that to love a woman, a man has to accept how she thinks. Mm-hmm. And conversely, to love a man, a woman has to accept how he thinks. Mm-hmm. You have to accept it. You don't force the other to be you.
True.
Or vice versa.
Right.
You accept it. Now, are there strengths and weaknesses in communication styles? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's where you have some give and take in learning each other's style. And that was a huge thing tonight. Yeah. Not just for Michael and Mika, but for Zach and Mindy. Mm-hmm. And
for all the couples. It's just that some of them allowed the process to find its level. And some accepted it and appreciated it a lot quicker than the others, because there was an expectation or an anticipation of how you should understand what I'm saying, or you should, be more receptive to me, or just being kind of reserved and not being as open or forthright as one.
Again, because that's vulnerability.
Exactly. That's exactly
vulnerability. And right now, a lot of these couples having the communication issue are in self-preservation mode.
Yeah.
I don't know you well. Right. I don't know you.
So I'm not going to allow you to hurt me.
I'm not sure if you're going to take what I say the way I'm intending for you to. So either I'm not going to say anything, or I'm not going to be as forthcoming as I would want to be. And we know this. All couples meeting for the first time know this. It's just that these guys are fast-tracked because they're already married.
Married.
But unfortunately, that brings us to another issue of, again, expectation. These couples that had the issues tonight, because we didn't even talk about Taylor and Brandon yet. She did something very innocent. She filmed him snoring. When he woke up, it was a camera in his face, and he immediately bolted out of the bed.
Literally.
And for the rest of the day, ignored her.
Extreme.
It was very extreme. But I mean, we sort of understand it, and then this moves us from communication style into fighting styles.
Yeah.
But ignored her. Now she really has no clue
as to
what
she did to warrant that type of response.
And constantly reaching out to him and being rebuffed, which gave it sort of a nasty tone.
Right. But now again, we do
but
have to
this
understand.
Is all day.
Yeah. And it's in front of a camera.
Yeah.
Which is why when it comes down to me, when it comes down to someone who may not necessarily be as versed in communication and being in a situation where we have to talk about something and it's very serious, that I don't know if I can necessarily talk to you about this in front of a camera.
Yeah.
But then it leaves space for it to seem like you're carrying this thing on.
It
as
started making him look
event.
like a
like a little butthole.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, it was unfortunate but there was something that he said, and it only came out in conversation.
At the end of the day,
right,
as he's explaining himself, as he's explaining what happened.
Panic attack.
Yeah.
He had a panic attack. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever had a panic attack. I can't say. Well, I have had one, and it's not a good feeling.
But you didn't have it. It wasn't induced by somebody else, was it?
No. It was.
Yeah. So it wasn't a reaction.
Right. It
to
wasn't
someone else.
Right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a bang situation that a response could have diffused what would happen from that point forward. This boy woke up out of a sleep, and he saw a camera in his face, and he said he had a panic attack. And he asked her, when they discussed, you didn't notice me shaking? I mean, I didn't say anything.
And she was like, no. You
didn't.
look fine to me.
But again, not knowing each other, not understanding what those little signs are that you would pick up on when you get to know an individual. You know, I mean, yes, it seemed like it was an extreme, his response. But I can pretty much guarantee you she won't be bringing the camera to bed anymore.
No, but how that pretty much ended was we got to the evening. They got by themselves. He explained why he reacted the way he did. He apologized. She was still hurt by the extreme that he went in his reaction, the extremeness. What am I trying to say? How extreme his reaction was.
Right.
Without letting her know why it was that way.
And then even in man style, he indicated, I apologized numerous times.
And he said, get over it. What? I was like, okay.
I even understood that one.
You really don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because whenever you're dealing with the other person's feelings,
you can't dictate how they should feel.
Or when it should stop.
True.
That's not your lane.
Because that even kind of hit me when he said it.
When he said, get over it, it's like, okay, you have just poured salt in the wound. Yeah. First of all, you didn't tell me what I did, and you ignored me nastily the entire day, and then you apologized, but then when I keep questioning why you did that, you know, and she also was trying to quantify why he should have felt, how he should have felt, and how he should have dealt with it.
Taken what she did.
Yeah, and that, you know, how you felt was extreme. Again, She's telling him how he's supposed to feel. He's telling her how she's supposed to feel and when she's supposed to get over it. Look, people.
And see, it would have been something as simple on his part, or excuse me, as simple on her part. When he apologized, she could have said, and I'm not saying she should have said it, but she could have said, "I accept your apology."
Right.
And that would have diffused him.
Right.
And that remark wouldn't have come out. And they could have moved on with their regular discussion, which fortunately they got past that incident.
They did. And he apologized again and did say that she was right in her assessment of he was really extreme. Mm-hmm. And kudos for him, to him, for acknowledging that his reaction was extreme and apologizing again. And then getting past it and being able to have a good day the next day.
A good evening.
And a good evening, good day the next day. And being able to get back to the bonding time. But look, you guys. You cannot tell each other how you're supposed to feel. You can't legitimize each other's feelings because you just can't do that.
You can't have expectations of how another person should feel.
And if you do, you need to keep them to yourself. Really.
Because again, when you're getting to know somebody, what expectations can you have on another person that you don't know?
And that's the second big issue. We talked about that last week. But the couples having the issues seem to have expectation benchmarks.
Yeah.
Benchmarks of, well, because we're legally married, we should be at this level today, and then today, tomorrow, we should be here, and then we should be.
And also the comparison of where other couples
are compared to
in their perception,
right?
You know, how they're dealing and how comfortable they appear and seem, and you know how friendly they may be toward each other, or whatever the case may be. That's just their personalities, their communication styles. Whatever it is that happens to be looking well for them doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way it is for everybody.
I think the older that you are single, you get set in, you know, your own ways, your own thoughts.
Well, you understand who you are.
Right. But some people have a hard time not putting those same perspectives or perceptions on a person you're just meeting. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, okay, so these requirements that Mika told Michael at one point, well, if I tell you what I don't like and you keep doing it, then, you know, and it's like, okay, wait, we just met. It's been 3 days.
And I do what I do. You found something in particular that I do that you don't like.
Right, but you've been doing this for how many years? And I've been doing it this way for how many years? And the first or second time you tell me you don't like that, I'm supposed to just remember that.
Discontinue that.
I'm just supposed to remember it from then on and never.
That's unrealistic.
It's unrealistic, and again, it's that required, this expectation of requirement, this expectation of benchmarks that we're supposed to be meeting, because that's what I see in my head. No flexibility.
Right.
You know, no compromising, no trying to see it from the other person's perspective. I mean, because when we first met,
I know we're probably about to say the exact same story. Talking about vulnerability.
And differences.
I had a habit. I mean, I had a physical habit. I
was a smoker.
I was a smoker.
I'm a non-smoker.
And we meet, you know, and we go to a restaurant.
Now remember, we're older. We're in our 30s.
We're in our 30s.
Okay.
We're grown folks.
Right.
We go to a restaurant, and again, never thinking about this situation, the waiter asks us, smoking or non-smoking?
Now this is before smoking was banned in all restaurants.
Yeah,
okay, so there's the smoking section and a non-smoking section. Mm-hmm. So the hostess says smoking or non. Now,
panic attack.
No, not really. But
But a
yes,
non-smoker.
but as a non-smoker, I am instantly thrown into what do I do? Because he smokes. And so I don't have the right to demand that he go into non-smoking because I don't smoke. He smokes.
Before all of y'all out there say what I know, I hear you thinking, I know I had a bad habit. And I looked at it as a bad habit. I immediately said non-smoking.
Immediately.
Because I understood that I shouldn't subject what I do, knowing that it's not the best thing in the world. Now, most smokers will say, it's no big deal, I smoke, so what?
Right.
But when you're dealing with a non-smoker, or if you've ever quit and dealt with a smoker, one of the worst people in the world are reformed smokers to deal with smokers. But you don't want to necessarily subject someone that especially you're trying to impress or make a good impression on, and subject to them doing something that they wouldn't normally do or wouldn't enjoy doing just because you do it. So,
but again, this was an instant situation of compromise, of being flexible.
or being other-centered.
Other-centered is a word that we like to use. Being other-centered. I was being other-centered, but I was in a quandary because smoke.
It's nasty. It's
Well,
just nasty.
it stinks. It's
Sorry, y'all smokers.
it gives
It's
me
the truth,
it gives me a contact headache. So all of these things are running through my mind in an instant. Okay, but at the same time, I'm being considerate because he's a smoker.
Yeah.
But he saved me, and that was one thing that struck me immediately. Is that even as we continue, because that was the very first date we went on by ourselves.
A lunch date.
Yeah. But in that instance, he continued to be considerate about me being a non-smoker. He never asked to smoke in my car. He never asked to smoke in my apartment. You never did that.
No.
If he needed a cigarette after, we finished in the restaurant, he did it between the restaurant and the car, flicked it out. There was never any attitude of get over it. This is what I do. Get over it.
And I've been smokeless or smoke-free
Yes,
for
he is
26 years.
a non-smoker.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that you have to demonstrate flexibility, and you have to demonstrate a willingness to let the other person be who they are, and let it all evolve.
Organically, naturally. Don't force feed a situation.
Yeah. So communication was a big issue. This expectation benchmark required, was a big issue. And what was another one? Let's see. Oh, and fighting styles. So, and everybody has a fighting style. And Brandon's, silent treatment all day.
Well, actually, I looked at his style as fight or flight. And what he immediately did when something did not rub him correctly was he disappeared. I mean, he was in a deep sleep. When he woke up, he saw the camera, and for whatever reason, he jumped out of bed. And I mean, she thought it was cute, funny, ha ha ha,
Yeah,
but not realizing that he immediately, nobody moves from a deep sleep to an instantaneous upright position and gone. Literally, regardless of how young and flexible you may be. To me, that was a response worth recognizing.
Well, and she missed it.
And she missed it.
And she missed it. So, but again, and he explained all of that. And once he explained it, but he did say, I didn't know how to talk to you. I didn't know how to talk about it. So you said fight or flight. He flew. He flew.
And to me...
And that's because he didn't know how to handle it.
But in coming back, just that statement, I didn't know how to respond or to speak to you regarding that situation at that time. For a man, that's vulnerability.
Yeah.
To admit that we don't know something.
And she honored it by just saying, okay, so next time you can just, do this. Or just, let me know.
Yeah, just let it out.
We can talk about it. We can talk about anything. You don't have to be scared to talk to me about whatever it is you're feeling. And
because fellas, believe it or not, they're a lot stronger than we think they are.
You don't think we're strong?
No, I think a lot of men don't think that their women are as strong as we perceive y'all to be. We look at y'all as being delicate and gentle, and you are all of those things. But it's not to say that you can't handle the situation.
Oh, that's the thing. You think that a lot of times we can't handle.
Right. How I'm feeling at this particular point, because I'm liable to say it any old kind of way, and I don't want to say it any old kind of way because I know you're not going to appreciate how I'm saying it. Well, you don't have to say it a particular way, but you can still express yourself, get your point across.
It doesn't have to be disrespectful.
And that's the bottom line. It doesn't have to be disrespectful. And I can pretty much guarantee that if you're just being honest, a woman who is about being your partner will be willing to accept your honesty and your forthrightness and adapt to how you're communicating to her.
So a lot of these couples that had the communication issues in this episode are learning how the other communicates.
Mm-hmm.
And will have to come to a point of understanding that this is just a style. If it's a style that doesn't lend itself to safe communication, it'll end up having to change.
Yeah.
Okay, because you can't be vulnerable if you don't feel safe. And even for people like us, I mean, that was a process. Mm-hmm. Even after you get married and you've been dating for a while, you're still not sure if I really talk about this the way I want to talk about it. Is he gonna get mad at me to the point that you're still not sure? You're still not that comfortable, and that's a process.
I'll say one word: bitey.
But we had to come to that.
Yeah, and it was just a code word in which it was something very simple. But once either one of us expressed something in a particular way that
put the other one off,
we would say that's a little bitey.
And we came to that because we started off our marriage with silent fights. Yeah. Because neither of us are people who
argue,
talk before who talk before we think. Mm-hmm. We're not yellers. We're not arguers. Right. And so our disagreements would be silent fights. Now, the difference from how Brandon handled his silent fighting was that we weren't discourteous to each other.
Right, no.
We weren't disrespectful to each other. If he asked me a question, I answered the question. Mm-hmm. I answered it nicely. We just didn't go into a discussion about anything. And the first silent fight we had in our little 2-bedroom apartment was him spending the whole day in the living room, mm-hmm. and me spending the whole day in the bedroom. Okay. And after having those kind of fights, not often, but still fighting that way, we got to a point where we're like, okay, look, we can't do this anymore.
This ain't working.
Okay. So if you're saying something that, as he said, that makes me feel some kind of way, mm-hmm. bitey, and then he would automatically know, or I would automatically know that I'm
I could have said
sorry.
that a little differently.
Yeah, how could I said
Or
that differently?
what
No,
I
you would
mean
ask.
was, yeah.
Right. How could I have said that differently? Okay. Which opens the door to a discussion.
Right.
That
Communicating.
that comes to resolution.
Right. And that's the bottom line. Resolution is what you always seek.
Aiming for. Right. Right. So this week, communication, a big issue. Fighting styles, a big issue. And having these expectations that keep you non-flexible.
In self-preservation mode.
Yeah. It doesn't allow for vulnerability. So we had a lot going on this week, which is why we talked a lot more than we have in the past. So we like to try to keep it short and sweet so we don't tire you out. But there's going to be more coming down the pike.
True.
And
we'll look forward to it.
Yeah. It's helping us too.
True.
It helps us too to realize, first of all, how far we've come. Mm-hmm. And
are we on a proper path?
Right.
Are we still growing, which we should be?
Right. And so we're having fun with it. And I hope that you're having fun listening to our discussion about it and that you're getting something out of it. If so, subscribe to the Professional Lovers YouTube channel. And we'll see you next week.
Take care.
Peace.